Over the weekend, Bolivia's politics were turned upside down when, after nearly 20 years in power, Bolivia's dominant left-wing party, the Movement for Socialism, or MAS, previously led by infamous former President Evo Morales, scraped only 3% of the vote in Bolivia's general election, which will see two right-wing candidates head into the October runoff. MAS's wipeout is a result of years of ugly infighting, corruption scandals, and economic disaster that's pushed inflation to a 40-year high. So in this video, we're going to look at the rise and fall of MAS, and what may happen next for Bolivia as it enters uncharted political territory. Dive deeper into politics with our magazine Too Long. Yes, we made a real physical magazine. In the latest issue, we discuss how El Salvador and Kosovo became 21st century penal colonies. We ask 6 experts what drives anti-establishment sentiment around the world, and ask if we're observing the end of the American order. Find out more by clicking the link in the description. Evo Morales, Bolivia's longest-serving president, rose to prominence at the turn of the century. An Aymara indigenous leader, he began in the Cocoa Growers Union of Chapare, defending cocoa farming, a traditional livelihood, against US-backed eradication campaigns. From there, Morales emerged as the head of the Movement for Socialism, or MAS, a coalition of miners, farmers, and urban leftists opposed to neoliberal reforms, privatization, and US influence. MAS gained national prominence in 2000, during the Cochabamba Water War, when it led protests against water privatization and championed better rights for indigenous groups, who before 2002 never won more than 5% of the vote in parliament. Morales' profile grew further in 2002, when, just before elections, the US ambassador urged Bolivians to vote for anyone but Morales. Many saw this as foreign meddling and rallied behind him. He nearly won, finishing second and shocking the political elite establishment. MAS cemented itself as Bolivia's dominant force during the gas wars of 2003. Plans to export Bolivia's vast national gas reserves to the US through Chile triggered nationwide unrest, and protesters flooded the streets, demanding the nationalization of gas resources and prioritization of domestic needs. However, the government's violent crackdown toppled 2 presidents in quick succession. Then, in the 2005 elections, Morales swept to power with more than half the vote, joining Latin America's pink tide of left-wing leaders that have ousted traditional elites and challenged US influence, campaigning on gas nationalization, wealth redistribution, and a new constitution that empowered the indigenous majority. Shortly after taking office, Morales partially nationalized Bolivia's oil and gas sector. Helped by a global boom in commodity prices, natural gas exports transformed Bolivia from South America's poorest nation into one of its fastest growing economies, averaging around 5% annual GDP growth for over a decade, and accumulating its largest foreign reserves in history, rising from 12% of GDP in 2003 to 52% by 2012. This extra revenue from the Bolivian government paid for generous social programs that essentially created a middle class from scratch. Real GDP per capita grew, and poverty fell sharply, with the proportion of people living on less than $2.15 a day dropping from 15% in 2005 to 2% by 2019. All the while, inflation remained low, prompting analysts to describe Bolivia's period of growth as an economic miracle. Riding on these economic successes and broad social reforms, Morales and his MAS party were re-elected in 2009 and 2014 with strong majorities. However, Morales' popularity faltered towards the end of his 3rd term, when he looked to extend his rule, which was seen by many as a power grab. According to the Bolivian constitution, revised in 2009 by Morales, presidents are limited to 2 terms, and a 2016 referendum rejected Morales' bid for another term. However, Bolivia's constitutional court, which was filled with MAS appointees, passed a mass petition to abolish term limits, allowing Morales to run again in 2019, which critics and conservative lawmakers described as a blow to democracy and a coup d'etat. The 2019 election plunged Bolivia into crisis. Morales claimed victory with 47% of the vote, but the result was marred by accusations of fraud. Protests erupted nationwide, turning violent, and security forces clashed with Morales' supporters. Morales proposed a runoff election, but the police, military, and the country's largest trade union called for his resignation. He unwillingly stepped down, calling the debacle a coup, and fled abroad, leaving Bolivia under an unelected interim conservative government. This triggered deep religious and ethnic tensions, and deepened divisions between those who believed Morales was ousted by a coup and those who accused his party of committing electoral fraud. Loyal Morales supporters denounced the new government, and several of these supporters were killed during protests. Roadblocks sprang up across the country, with mass loyalists cutting off food, gas, and water supplies to major cities, pushing Bolivia into further turmoil. The turmoil eased in October 2020, when Mas returned to power with Luis Arce, a close Morales ally, elected president. Morales came back from exile soon after, but tensions quickly surfaced as Arce moved to sideline him. The party split into two camps: the Socialists, who backed Arce's newer leadership, especially after Morales faced charges of human trafficking and statutory rape, and the Evistas, Morales' loyalists who still saw him as Mas's rightful leader. All the while Mas was imploding, Bolivia's once praised economic model was also slowly collapsing. After the 2014 global crash in gas prices, export revenues shrank and investment in the gas sector dried up, and annual spending on gas plunged as Morales, an outspoken critic of environmental issues, blocked new gas projects, stalling production and growth. To fill the revenue gap, the government borrowed heavily and burned through reserves, while continuing to fund costly fuel subsidies, frozen since 2005 at 54 cents a litre, compared with a world average of $1.31 today, and defending the fixed exchange rate of the Boliviano, which has been in place since 2011 at $6.96 to the dollar. By 2023, crisis had hit. Foreign exchange reserves had plunged from a $15 billion high in 2014 to under $2 billion, leaving the government scrambling month by month to find dollars to import fuel, wheat, and service debt, which had doubled between 2014 and 2022 to about 80% of GDP, and now stands at about 95%, whilst persistent fiscal deficits widened to roughly 7% of GDP. While Arce's government insisted the economy was under control, ordinary Bolivians felt the opposite, facing shortages of basic goods, long queues at gas stations, and inflation that hit a 4-decade high this July. Public frustration mounted, and Arce's support crumbled. At the same time, Mas unravelled further. In June 2024, Morales accused Arce of staging a false coup attempt to boost his popularity, then urged his supporters to boycott the 2025 election in protest of being barred from running. But by May, Arce himself announced he would not seek re-election, leaving the party in disarray. In the end, the party limped into the election last Sunday leaderless and divided, and it seems Mas's voters punished the party for its infighting and economic mismanagement. The result was catastrophic. Mas's candidates scraped just over 3% of the vote, barely enough to keep the party legally alive. Meanwhile, two right-leaning challengers, both who promised fiscal restraint, foreign loans, and renewed investment in oil, gas, and lithium, surged ahead, and will go head-to-head in October in a historic runoff which will end nearly 2 decades of Mas's dominance and may bring significant free market reforms. It's safe to say that if you're invested in topics such as these, then you're also passionate about challenging yourself through online learning. Well, we're here to help you with that. Our sponsor this week, Brilliant, are experts at pushing your learning to the next level. That's because Brilliant is an incredibly thorough learning platform designed to be uniquely effective in how you build skills every day. Their vast library of topics, from science to AI, all feature a perfect mix of engaging problems, competitive features, and daily encouragement that keeps you motivated and on track. Brilliant helps build your critical thinking skills through problem solving, not just memorizing. So, while you're building real knowledge on specific topics, you'll also be becoming a better thinker. For example, if you're looking to build your mathematical intuition, Brilliant is the best place to go. Their newly updated maths courses focus on the most useful, applicable maths concepts, so you never feel like you're wasting your time. You'll start at the perfect level and work your way up through interactive challenges that bring abstract concepts to life. Whether you're at home or on the go, you can level up your math skills wherever you are. To start your learning journey and try Brilliant for free, visit brilliant.org/TLDR, scan the QR code on screen, or you can click the link in the description. By doing so, you'll also get 20% off an annual premium subscription, and they'll know that you came from us, which really helps us out.